Hello, my friends, family, and colleagues. I know I wrote several articles about leukemia, and I'm sure I made videos about it, but again, question came to please address this disease again. So uh, here we go. Leukemia, if we look at it from a standpoint of science, is basically a disease which shows too many white blood cells basically in the blood. And as any other chronic, because it's a chronic disease, as any other chronic disease, culprit is unknown to science. And this is why it's also called blood cancer, although it does not have much to do with the cancer, yet may appear. Now, why it may appear? Because when we have so-called leukemia, we have a way higher blood count of white blood cells in the blood, which some of them may not even be fully developed. So it means that there is more cells being created. Well, in cancer, this is not so, because in cancer, it's a proliferation. So they're not like individual cells. Those cells are being made by division, dividing themselves, proliferation. And in leukemia, you have new cells growing. But they're growing uncontrollably. So there's way too many of them in the blood. Why is that happening? Well, of course, we go and we say, well, you see, it's a bone marrow. This is where the stuff is being mostly created. So there's a problem with bone marrow. Well, there is not really a problem because the cells are being created. And they are being created so fast that sometimes they don't even have time to be fully developed when they should end. Now, instead of going and citing what science tells us, we are going to look at it from a simply rational point, which is organ is producing a lot of cells. Why? Usually there is a need, because whatever body does, it does it because of demand. It's a perfectly designed, without flaws, it's perfectly designed robot. It has all the genes in every single cell of the body. So when we say, oh, gene is missing or gene is misfunctioning, well, of which cell? All of the cells? Well, what controls genes? The environment. Gene simply responds to the environment. So what could be happening in the body that the genes are responding in making body creating more white blood cells? Obviously, there must be something in the body that has to be eliminated, because contrary to what we are being told, that white blood cells are our immune system, this is not true. White blood cells are garbage disposal system. And to dispose of the garbage has to be labeled, because there's a lot of stuff in the blood. And most of the stuff, if not all of the stuff, has been created by the body. So there is no rejection going on. So body is not eliminating something because it is rejected. It is in the body, but it has to be eliminated. Now, how does a white blood cell know that something has to be eliminated, that some protein is no longer desirable? Well, usually, what has to be eliminated is a debris, which is usually non-functioning matter, which means it does not have electric charge. And this way, it does not have electromagnetic field, or at least not strong one. So there is a mechanism that every animal has. Not plants, but animals do have it. And this mechanism is a protein that we have named GCMF. And our body produces GCMF protein and shoots it in the blood. And this protein basically will attach itself to every organic debris in a body that is low in electromagnetic repulsion. So if it's low on energy, it has a small magnetic field, and since every outside part of everything there is positively charged, then being positively charged in a blood, it will not adhere to positively charged inner part of blood vessel or other particles which are in the blood, which keeps things apart. But if it doesn't have energy, magnetic field is very low, so it doesn't really stay much apart. There is not much big repulsion. And this allows GCMF to stick to these things. And when GCMF sticks to something that is of low charge, then it is like signaling label saying garbage, which white blood cell is looking for. And as soon as it sees garbage, bingo, it munches it up. You see, when we have proliferated cells, then the one part of the cell that is loaded with the garbage becomes, well, the whole cell is low of energy, but becomes even lower of energy than the part which is less garbage, less acids. And normally what should be done, what should happen is that GCMF gets stuck to it. And this is when macrophage goes and tears the cell apart. This is what creates this stinging pain for people that are healing from cancer. Now, of course, some smart guys started manufacturing GCMF protein and selling it. And it was a lucrative business, but short-lasting, because the cabal does not want people healing. He wants people dead. So, of course, these guys were persecuted, jailed until they start confessing that it was a joke, that this stuff doesn't really work, so they can get out of jail. And again, very few people now know about GCMF. It was just boom for several months or a year. And then it was again put under the carpet, swept under the carpet. So this is not known. But what happens is that the problem of cancer is related to lack of GCMF, and the same is with leukemia. Because what happens in leukemia? Something is in the body that resonates in a way that the body wants it out. So it stimulates production of white blood cells. But since we don't have GCMF, these particles are not identified or labeled as a garbage. So white blood cells come and they're searching and they cannot find the problem. But problem remains. So the white blood cells continue searching and new white blood cells are being produced to help because problem was not eliminated. And since the new ones also cannot find the problem, a new batch is being made, a new batch, a new batch. Now, what could be causing this? What kind of a culprit could be there? Well, we know some. For example, cats. Leukemia in cats which are locked in a house that cannot hunt for themselves is getting rampant. Now, a lot of people, they want to feed their cats well, so they buy them canned food. And canned food, the meat in there, is full of preservatives and chemicals additionally added. When cats eat this kind of a food, basically cat food more than dry food, then they are quickly developing leukemia. This also can be related to little children when they are being fed with processed meat, like hamburgers. And they sell these teensy hamburgers for babies. You can find them on shelves for baby food. Well, these preservatives inside contain something that is harmful for the body. Body first cannot digest it, but whatever seeps into the blood, it's harmful. Body wants it out and stimulates production of white blood cells. And since they are being also fed with carbohydrates, the young children, babies, they don't produce GCMF because it's either producing Nagalase or GCMF. It's the same pair of genes that, depending on vibration, will produce one or the other, which means depending on what is in the environment of the body, what you eat. And if you eat carbohydrates, you are forcing genetically body to produce enzyme that can hydrolyze it so it can be efficiently used for energy production, which happens regularly in plants. But in plants, we don't call this enzyme Nagalase. We call it glycoside hydrolase. And since we know that this enzyme is not produced in animals or in humans because we are not supposed to be using carbohydrate for energy. So instead of calling it this way in humans, we have renamed it in Nagalase just to put a blanket over eyes of doctors. I know that doctors are victims of a system. But so are religious people. But they came a bit too far. Anyway, so we know that children eating that crap are going to have leukemia. I had 2 instances of clients with leukemia that was triggered by green tea. We are being told green tea, well, antioxidant, everything that is antioxidant. If you look at it, what they call antioxidant is phenols and other toxic stuff to animals or humans. So, again, we are being blindfolded. So, both of these cases, it was my wife's friend, childhood friend. She was at that time, I think, about 40 years old or 38-year-old lady. And her leukemia was getting worse and worse. So I asked her what she does, what she eats, what she drinks. Then I discovered that she doesn't drink water. And she drinks a lot of green tea. Every time she is thirsty, she drinks green tea. She had it in the refrigerator, and this was her main drink. And as soon as she went to protocol and eliminated green tea, and of course started drinking plasma and started eating correctly, within a couple of months, there was no leukemia in her anymore. And the same happened with another gentleman. And then a friend of mine, Venezuelan also, but lives here in Peru, his father came to visit. And as we were talking, and he mentioned, father has problem with leukemia. It's creeping in, and then he goes for blood transfusion, and then it gets better, and then again creeps in, and getting worse and worse. Again, we changed the diet. stopped eating. He was eating way too much processed meat, uh, kielbasa, salami, frankfurters. All these chemicals are toxic, and they prevent meat to break down. So how are you gonna digest it if you have these chemicals that do not allow breakdown of the food? And he was absorbing. I cannot pinpoint exactly. Well, I could have if I wanted to get into it, but it's not necessary. I'm trying to teach you that we don't have to be car mechanics to drive a car. We don't have to know every detail. We just have to know the basic maintenance. And basic maintenance is to know how to eat correctly, how to hydrate correctly, and how to think correctly. And that's all. And as soon as we change the diet, he went on a protocol, which means, what is Self-Healer's protocol? It's a guide to correct diet, correct hydration. And this is why the most common question is of people when they heal and they feel better. They say, oh, okay, Darko, when can I go? Back. Back to what? Well, eating like I used to. As soon as you want to get sick again. I said, that's all. It doesn't mean that we have to eat correctly. And again, the correct way. There's a big scale between eating correctly and eating toxic and eating so toxic food that it is going to show quickly health problems. But there's a big scale there. This is why my wife created the book Food That Heals, which also is scale from very strict to less strict, and to that food that is okay to eat, but don't eat it every day. Don't eat every day the same, so you don't have the same poisons coming into your body. If it's basically spice that she uses here and there. So as soon, all you have to do if you have a leukemia. Now, I'm not saying every single case of leukemia is going to, because I'm not oncologist, I'm not working with people with leukemia. But so far, every client I had, being a human, being an animal, they healed from leukemia within a few months simply by following the correct diet protocol and hydration protocol. So there's no mystery. Body does not start malfunctioning. I don't know, some gear breaks off and then it start clicking and cannot be fixed. It doesn't happen with the body. Body is perfect creation, and it responds to the environment within or outside of the body. You correct the environment, genes realign, and they make you healthy. This is as simple as it gets. And by correcting your diet, you stop eating carbohydrate, you stop eating plants, and as soon as you do it, your body has no more necessity to produce nagalas, and it shifts into production of GCNF. You don't have to buy it. Your body makes it. And those up there that are inverting everything for the Kamal, they know the truth. So they gave us these stories. Oh, it was just discovered that shark makes its own antibiotic because you can cut its fins and it's going to be still living and no infection, could be in dirty water. So we are going to now fund a study that will find what it is, how it makes this antibiotic. It has nothing to do with any antibiotic. It's producing GCNF. Because same thing happens with every wild animal. You can see on YouTube, they are being bit and part of a flesh and skin is hanging. They roll in the dust. Nothing happens. This heals. We have a blister popping out, and if it gets dirty, we get septicemia, we can die from it. From a little scratch. Why? Because we have no GCNF to get itself on toxic debris that comes into our body if we have more. Not even to deal with apoptosis, when cells are destroying, and we call it necrotic tissue. We don't have GCMF to get glue there for white blood cells to attack it. So necrotic tissue sits there. It's not being dealt with. You have white blood cells. They are not taking it. Why? It's not marked. Animals, they have no problem. They have GCMF. Wild animals, domestic animals are in the same predicament as we are because we give them cooked food, basically loaded with carbohydrates. So we offset their mechanism. As soon as you correct your diet, your body corrects itself. We call this healing. It's automatic. And the adjustment process, very often we confuse with immunity. Oh, we are immune. No, body has adjusted to cope with the stuff as it can, as it's programmed to, in case this happens. But it's not immunity. The only immunity is immunity to shift frequency, and the only thing that can strengthen this immunity is voltage. I've talked about it many times. Go check it. Okay, my friends, so if you know someone with leukemia, please help them. But unfortunately, a lot of people, they only trust the white coats or green coats or blue coats where they keep changing the outfits. And unfortunately, those 007 agents have no clue because they have been misled. They believe in completely different stories that are being sold through so-called studies, which are all manufactured nonsense, created to misguide them. Okay, my friends, thank you for listening. God bless us all, deliver us from this hell we are in, and soon we will be free, and then we'll celebrate. Thank you for being here. Please share this new knowledge with others. Help them. God bless us all. Love you. Namaste.